Welcome into 2-for-1 Drafts. Austin Gayle here with Mike Renner, ready to get on this Thursday edition of the 2-for-1 Drafts podcast. We got a pretty good deal of information coming your way. We're going to do some reactions to Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay's latest position rankings and overall draft boards. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there. The way we're going to break this down is for Todd McShay and Mel Kiper each. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly. Some ugly takes in there compared to what we like here at PFF. But
I was going to say, it's kind of douchey.
Ugly is aggressive. Ugly is aggressive.
But you wanted it to be featured this way.
Exactly.
And I don't mind.
It's
for the entertainment value.
It's for the entertainment value. Ugly, I think, is an aggressive word. But I guess most disagreed with takes is where we're going to stand there. But that doesn't sound as good as the good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. The good, the bad, and the most disagreed with is kind of butt, if I had to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, like, and the thing is, there's a lot of good. There's a lot of things we agree with.
Absolutely.
Like, we're obviously going to focus on the things we disagree with because that's more interesting.
Yeah,
just saying, like,
it's entertainment.
Going position by position, be like, yes, we agree there. Yes, we agree there is not interesting.
No
one gives a shit that we agree.
Exactly.
It's only fun, you know.
The disagreement, and it's interesting to see how they're
Embrace
seeing
debate.
different players. Exactly, Embrace debate. Here, let's start with Mel Kiper Jr. That's who we're going to first go down through. We're going to go through the good, the bad, and the most disagreed with, a.k.a. the ugly. Starting with the good, and here's a great example. The top 10 players, I put this on there. They're in a different order than PFF's latest big board, but I do agree with the top 10 overall players on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board. To walk through those right now, he's got Chase Young at number 1 of Ohio State, which I think if you leave positional value out of it, yes, Chase Young is the best player in this class, but positional value does push Joe Burrow over the top for Chase Young. And then number 2, he has Joe Burrow. Number 3, which I really like, Tua Tagovailoa at number 3. Some people have him lower, weighing too much maybe into the injury. 4, Jeffrey Okudah, right up there with where we have him. And 5, Isaiah Simmons. I can get on board with Isaiah Simmons being the 5th best player in this class.
He's 7th for us.
7th for us, yeah. Derek Brown at 6, Jerry Jeudy ahead of CeeDee Lamb at 7, but CeeDee Lamb right there at 8. Yeah. And I think we've said it time and time again. It depends who'd you watch last, because who you watch last is probably who's going to be first.
I was going to say, those guys will never not be ranked right next to each other on our draft board. There's not. No one's going to come between them.
Exactly. It's just hand in hand right there. So Jerry Jeudy at 7, CeeDee Lamb at 8, and then he has Andrew Thomas at 9. His OT1, which with PFF is very similar to where we have Andrew Thomas, and that 10. Justin Herbert.
They got different.
Yeah, that's a little different. Justin Herbert at 10, but here I will say this: if you were going to factor in positional value,
I was going to say, so that's the thing here. He doesn't factor in at the top when he has Chase Young over Joe Burrow, because no sane person is going to say, hey, Joe Burrow, like, if you needed both those positions, no sane person is going to draft Chase Young over Joe Burrow, right? At the moment.
Which is exactly the situation the Bengals are in. They need both positions, but you'd be foolish, absolutely foolish, to take Chase Young over Joe Burrow at number 1.
But then at the same time, Justin Herbert is not a better prospect for the quarterback position than Javon Kinlaw is for the defense tackle position, who's number 11 on his board there. Like, that's just objectively, anyone would tell you that if your position value didn't matter here, Javon Kinlaw has, top 3 sort of defense tackle in the NFL type of potential.
Yeah.
Justin Herbert,
not in the same tier.
I mean, just like if he becomes a quality starter, it's very much up in the air. That'd be his best case scenario, is just to be a starter.
I think that's where we probably most disagree with Mel Kiper Jr.'s top 10. But what I was most impressed with was how high he had Tua Tagovailoa, and also where he sits currently with Isaiah Simmons, Jerry Jeudy, and CeeDee Lamb, and Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas as his offensive tackle 1, which is great for Mel Kiper Jr. Let's move on to the next kind of the good in Mel Kiper's ranks. Netani Muti, our guy.
We're saying it's great for Mel Kiper Jr. as if this is the OG. He's been doing it for 40 years, and we've been doing this for 6. But yes, it is great for Mel Kiper Jr.
Yeah, I mean, it is great for Mel Kiper. But with Netani Muti is his OG2.
Yes.
His second best offensive guard in his class, and
people are getting it.
They're finally getting it. I mean, he's your OG1 on PFF's board, but I thought PFF was going to be the only guy on Netani Muti. I saw Bucky Brooks had him in his top 5 interior
top
offensive
3
lineman.
for interior offensive lineman. Yeah,
you got have Mel Kiper with him OG2. People see Netani Muti.
Hop on board before it's too late. Before you look silly when he goes 15th overall. It's not going to happen. He's not going to go 15th.
For those who haven't listened to PFF's podcast for the past 2 weeks plus, where we talk about Netani Muti probably every podcast, give me the breakdown of where you are with Muti.
He's a Hawaiian god. He walked out of a volcano and it was already a full-grown man. His highlight reel tape, if you haven't watched it, I say this every time I bring it up, go to YouTube, search Netani Muti highlights. It's absurd. It looks like Quentin Nelson coming out, and this is him as a freshman back at Fresno State. Absurdly powerful, and the thing is, he's very powerful, but is also light on his feet, athletic, has gotten the job done very well in pass protection over the course of his career, graded out exceptionally well. Yes, he tore his Achilles in 2018. Yes, he only played 3 games this past year with a shoulder injury. injury red flags are huge, but there's 2 separate injuries. Obviously not like recurring something that's going on. You get a clean bill of health by draft time, he's IOL 1 for us.
Absolutely. I mean, with Netani Muti, again, it's Bucky Brooks is on the train, Mel Kiper on the train. I think Netani Muti is a guy that see past the injuries, look at this physical freak with great production when healthy. Because if you look at his grades, he's graded very, very well at offensive guard and at tackle for Fresno State. I think I'm really impressed with him as a prospect. The only red flag, really, the biggest red flag is injuries. If you can overcome that, I mean, this is one of the better players in this draft. I mean, he's top 32 on PFF's big board. Moving forward here, James Lynch, the Baylor player at DT5.
Yes. I like this one. There's a couple here. This one. So James Lynch at DT5 and KJ Hamler at wide receiver 6 because they're takes. They're like kind of like hot-ish takes. But I just kind of like both of them. James Lynch was a defensive end at Baylor, but he played defensive end at like 300 pounds.
Yeah, he's huge.
Now, he was actually better in terms of grading at defensive end than he was on the interior. So 350 snaps rushing the passer on the edge. 82.6 pass rushing grade there, 143 when they kicked him inside, only 64.8 passing rushing grade from the inside. So from that perspective, yes, it doesn't look great for him projecting to DT at the next level, but I still like the traits. I still think that he had 70 pressures this past season for Baylor. I think that led all the edge defenders in the country, and he's like I said, not an edge defender, but didn't come off the field for Baylor. Rushed the pass over 500 times this past year, so the motor is there. The production to some degree is there. So I like the take of him as DT5, and I like the take as KJ Hamler as wide receiver 6 because freakish athleticism, that freakish sort of separation ability, just plays in the NFL today. That's the way the NFL game is going. I think he's a weapon that you can take very much advantage of.
I know another thing.
I like having him up there better than guys like Justin Jefferson, guys like who aren't at that level.
Which we'll get to in Todd McShay's.
Yeah.
We'll get to in Todd McShay's, I think top 25 or where, top 32 overall players. Another thing you like with Mel Kiper, the good here, he ranks long snappers. Mel Kiper Jr. He ranks long snappers.
He ranks long snappers. He ranks 6 long snappers. So now he has 10 of every single other position. Like, he just goes through his top 10 rankings at every other position, and then just puts 6 long snappers.
Who's number 1?
Blake Ferguson from LSU.
Oh, yeah.
Also
who's at the Senior Bowl. Who's number 2?
Steve Wordle from Iowa State.
Oh, actually, I've seen his tape.
You remember Steve Wordle's tape, yeah.
Very, very good,
Fucking
actually.
Snaps
but
that
I feel like
ball.
I still can't really have a good decision on him until I see the All-22. Like, I feel like you get the All-22 end zone angle of that snap and just watch all of them back to back.
So long snapping they should time it at the combine. Why don't they?
Yeah, that's actually a good take.
Like the 40-yard snap. Mm-hmm. Some guy.
And also, I'd say like distance. I would love to see how far can you long snap.
Yeah.
Where it's like you start at the 10 and see if you can go 30 yards, 40 yards, because then you want torque.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's timing as well. But I think torque would be a very nice piece to it.
I did love hearing that. So I guess apparently actual accuracy is not nearly as important on snaps as is getting the laces.
No, I've heard that too. Pat McAfee is saying that.
Which is very interesting to me.
Apparently the long snapper's job is
we don't scout long.
Yeah, we don't. But the long snapper's job, according to Pat McAfee, I would encourage listening to the original because I'm just paraphrasing here. But he was saying that it's more than just like getting it right where the holder's hands are, but actually getting it to where when it hits the holder's hands, he can just put it down without much pivot for where laces are already out. That is absurd. You're like snapping it knowing how many revolutions you're going to have on the ball by the time it hits his hands to a point where he doesn't need to make a major adjustment to get the laces
out. It's almost like bowling at that point. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, a lot of it is. I mean, maybe bowling should be at the combine. We're talking about these new drills here. I don't know. That's going to do it for the good for Mel Kiper Jr. We're going to move to the bad. Again, the bad, the ugly, both aggressive terms. Just trying to structure this for your entertainment value. But this is some of the stuff that we kind of disagreed with, starting with Ben Bredesen, offensive guard 1. And you haven't been on the Bredesen hype train for a while. Like you've always kind of been, he's a blue blood program, and you've always said like don't scout the helmet, scout the player. When you do scout the player, what do you see?
4-year starter, Michigan, obviously love. I just think he's like super high cut for a guard. He gets out leveraged a lot at the point of attack. Never had good run blocking grades in his career. It was solid this past year in pass protection, but a lot of it was that an offensive line, a lot of play action. They just don't have a lot of like true pass sets on his tape, and had a very good interior guys next to him in Cesar Ruiz and Michael Onwenu there for Michigan. So he's not terrible, but 66.3 run blocking grade this past year. That was his best since his freshman year. He's just not necessarily. I think he's just fine. Like you draft him in the 4th round, and maybe you get an average guard someday. That's not OG1 though to me.
Not what you'd like to see. And looking at PFF's latest position rankings on the site, which you can go to on PFF.com, Bredesen didn't make the top 10 for interior offensive line. he's not in that top 10 for interior offensive line, while on the other hand, Mel Kiper does have him as the top guard in this class, according to these latest rankings here. Moving forward on more of the bad, I put this one in here. Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen both inside his top 25. Kenneth Murray coming at number 19 as the best linebacker in this class. Or no, after Isaiah Simmons, and then number 25, Patrick Queen. I just think that is too high for both of the off-ball linebackers. I don't necessarily want to disagree with Murray over Queen, Queen over Murray, but I think they are not top 25 players in this class, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're the traits guys, and they're the classic traits linebackers over what we've seen from them so far in the field. They'll be better in the NFL than they have been in college, and that's. I mean, I'm not going to argue too hard. That's why it's not in the ugly category here for us.
Yeah.
It's just the bad. But it's like if you have the 19th overall pick, and one of those guys staring in the eye, there's got to be better players there on the board.
Yeah, and at better positional value. Exactly. I'm tired of big boards that do not factor in positional value. We're going to get into that when we get into the ugly with both Kiper and McShay. Yeah. But, like, off-ball linebacker, when you have this cornerback class staring you in the face, like the Cameron Dantzler, Bryce Hall, Jeff Gladney, like, I'm sitting at 19 and 25 in this draft. I'm not thinking about off-ball linebacker, knowing how Kenneth Murray and Patrick Queen, though, have impressed on tape. From a traits perspective, I think the production's still lacking for me to see them as top 25 players.
I agree.
All right, moving forward. No Curtis Weaver. Curtis Weaver, we just had him on the podcast recently. Curtis Weaver, right now, top 20 on PFF's latest big board. Up there, I think edge 3 in the latest position rankings for PFF. Love his production at Boise State. He's not a traits guy, though. He's not on Todd McShay's top 32. He's not on Mel Kiper's top 25 because he's not a traits guy. And I think that's the biggest reason why people do not like his build. Bottom line, people do not like his build. He made the top 5 of Bucky Brooks' latest edge rankings, and he mentioned it. Does not have the build, but love his production. And I think he's working. He's in Club Sexy with Exos in Frisco, Texas. What's funny on the interview, and you'll hear it if you listen to yesterday's podcast, he's like, "Oh, I'm from I'm based working out in Frisco." I was like, "Oh, my hometown. I'm from the Bay Area." He's like, "Frisco, Texas?" I was like, "Actually, no. I've never been there. Sorry." But yeah, again, with Curtis Weaver, he has the bad build.
We're not supposed to call it Frisco if it's San Francisco.
Yeah, well, San Fran is what I usually refer to. But anyway, who gives a shit about that? No, Curtis Weaver, not on Kiper's big board. What's your take?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the take is he's the 16th overall player on our board. The take is that we disagree. And him being behind guys like, well, we'll get into it later, but just guys like Terrell Lewis on the edge. I don't
That's absurd. Like, again, Terrell Lewis has the traits.
Like, these guys can't hold candle to his production.
Hey, Terrell Lewis has the traits. The guy was built in the lab to play this position, but again, the production not there, and that is a big reason why we kind of disagree on the alignment there. You want to take over this one? I know you had some disagreements here.
Antoine Winfield at safety 10 for him, and Terrell Burgess at safety 9, behind the likes of Davion Taylor from Colorado, who was straight up a linebacker.
Yeah, he's not even a safety. He's huge. Davion Taylor's like big.
Yeah, who's a linebacker, and then Josh Metellus from Michigan, who just he's slow. Like
Davion Taylor's the guy who didn't play high school football, right? Who had that whole situation and barely learning linebacker safety. That's wild.
Exactly. And then Metellus is straight up got owned in the one-on-ones. So some guys came, so they had the safeties go one-on-one against the wide receivers at the Senior Bowl. Some guys looked like they had the ability to do that. Some guys just looked like they were safeties trying to cover real wide receivers one-on-one. Metellus is this guy who looked like a straight-up safety trying to cover a wide receiver one-on-one. Had no business doing that whatsoever. But he has him ahead of Winfield and Burgess, so I'm just going to disagree.
When they did do those drills at the Senior Bowl, someone who surprised me that played safety was Alohi Gilman.
Yeah.
He actually played very well. Yeah. Playing press
he's
corner.
Not athletic, but the dude got in people's
He was physical,
grills.
Very physical, and I think it was some of the receivers were not ready for Alohi Gilman in those drills. All right, let's move to the ugly. Okay, the most disagreed with on Mel Kiper's here. I think it's easy to say the positional designations. You go through his top 5 positional rankings. It's like he's got linebackers with edge defenders. He's got linebackers with safeties. It's all over the board here.
It's 2020. What the hell are we doing ranking Isaiah Simmons in the same vein, in the same position as Curtis Weaver? He has him listed as both in his outside linebacker rankings.
Same with Kayvon Chason. I think Kayvon
Chason, those two. And then also, so who else is in there? Willie Gay Jr., who is a straight up 235-pound off-ball linebacker, never rushed the pass, barely rushed the passer in his life at Mississippi State. He ranks all those guys at outside linebacker. They are Simmons played safety at Clemson. Curtis Weaver dropped into coverage 50 times in his career. Those guys are not doing the same thing. They will not be doing the same thing. It's 2020. Get with the program. And so, you can't even, tell. And then he ranks Marlon Davidson with the defensive ends. I mean, I guess, yes, he
did
played
play
there,
defense.
but now he's 297 pounds. But you have James Lynch, who played defensive end, with defense tackles.
What I learned most from that is Mel Kiper Jr. needs a PFF subscription.
Yeah.
Specifically one.
Find out where these guys play.
Exactly. Let's get some positional snap counts. We'll help you out, brother. It's all in the draft guide. By the way, all Edge and Elite subscribers can get access to PFF's latest draft guide. We have a new version coming out on February 24th as well. That's going to have, 250 players?
250.
With I think it's 755 pages. This thing's a monster. I heard it's bigger than the Bible. I don't know. That's just the page count we're getting
more
to.
Interesting, in my opinion, but that's not biased here. But all right, and then the last positional designation that I found hilarious was he just ranks kickers and punters together. Like, he has kickers and punters together, 5 punters, then a kicker, where it's like, if this is your draft board and you're like, we need a specialist, but we really need a kicker, but the punter's higher on our board.
I'm lost in the sauce right now.
Do we draft the punter?
It's absurd. This is absurd. Wait, who's next on our specialist rankings?
Yeah. You got to take them.
We needed a punter, actually.
Hey,
well.
Next man up.
Just stick to your board.
Yeah.
Stick to your board. Moving forward, the ugly, and I mentioned this a little bit, hinted at this, but DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins at number 18 and number 20, respectively. I don't care how you see this running back class. If DeAndre Swift and J.K. Dobbins are your 1 and 2 at that position, okay. But to have either of those players in the top 20, knowing what we know now about the running back position, seeing what we've seen with David Johnson, Todd Gurley, now even Ezekiel Elliott, what's going to happen to Derrick Henry, what happened to Melvin Gordon, why, in your right mind, would you ever draft a running back that high or value one that high compared to, again, go to cornerback, go to receiver, this receiving class? It's absurd to me.
Dude, and it's because also, like, running back is the one position where you can always pat yourself on the back for as a GM.
Because they're all good.
Because when you draft one in the first round, you're going to give them 250 carries. And if you get 250 carries, you're going to get 1,000 yards. And once you hit 1,000 yards as a running back, you're a good running back.
There are some that say that the Leonard Fournette the Leonard Fournette was still a good pick because he's been fed the football and fed a lot of other things too, if we want to get to the weight discussion. But Leonard Fournette was not a good selection at number 4. You did not recruit your value. It's objectively not a good choice. And with these two guys, as talented as they are, and we talked about DeAndre Swift on the last podcast, we've talked about J.K. Dobbins at length, still not top 20 players, largely because they do not play a position that you're going to get the value back when you do draft them that highly.
It's not a skilled position. There's no skills to learn.
This is just my favorite take on running backs by you, by the way. Go ahead.
And when there's not skills to learn, you can't separate there's fewer things to separate from the pack from. So it
becomes more athleticism. It becomes more track.
It just becomes and then when you look at track meets, the difference between the top guys is nothing.
Yeah.
And that's what it basically is. The difference between all these top guys is nothing. There's so few guys that really separate because there's no skills to learn to make you better at the position.
Compared to other positions, there's definitely skills to learn. I think you're being somewhat hyperbolic, but I think.
But I mean, there really is you hit the ground as a rookie in the NFL at your peak, basically.
Yes, no.
You're not
and that's
you can improve
100%.
in pass protection. You can maybe improve in routes, hands, whatever. But as a pure runner with the ball in your hand, you're not you don't get more elusive.
Yep.
That you just are. That you are what you are.
All right, last one here for Mel Kiper, and we apologize in advance. We did not mean to get this aggressive here, but Cole Kmet at number 22.
Man.
This tight end class is bad. It's the worst position group in the 2020 NFL draft. To have any of them in your top 32 is absurd, and let alone Cole Kmet.
I have 2 takes on this. One, about Kmet itself is crazy at number 22. There's not a single thing. He doesn't have a trump card. He's not athletically anything special. He is probably a worse receiver than T.J. Hawkinson was, worse receiving sort of traits in terms of athleticism, hands. It just was very much just ran the seams, never beat one-on-one coverage at Notre Dame. Like I said, I was watching him at Notre Dame this past year, big Notre Dame fan. At no point was I ever Cole Kmet's a dude, feed Cole Kmet.
The difference maker.
Exactly. At no point. But so him at 22, crazy to me. This whole tight end class is kind of just meh. But then the other take is that I think tight end, you're going to see these guys pumped up draft boards and way overdrafted this year because in the Super Bowl, Travis Kelce against George Kittle.
Yep.
Everyone's give me a Travis Kelce, George Kittle.
There's not a Travis Kelce
exactly.
or George Kittle in this class. I don't know if there will be for a while now.
Yeah.
They're rare athletes, rare size profiles.
Everyone's going to try to be featuring their tight end position to try to get those guys, but those guys are freaks. Those guys are exceptional after the catch.
Mike, I'm not ready for that analysis on draft day. I'm not ready for day one, day two. When they pick a tight end, it's they're following the mold. It's a copycat league. Yep. This is the next Travis Kelce. I'm not ready for it. I'm just not. All right, let's go to Todd McShay. Next year, we're going to do the same kind of format. We're going to do the good, the bad, and the ugly, or the most disagreed with for Todd McShay's latest top 32. He has his latest top 32. And let's start this actually with a great Todd McShay story from the Senior Bowl. Mike, take away.
So Josh Jones is OT2 for Todd McShay. He's outdone us and gone even higher on Josh Jones than we are. 18th overall on his draft board, but we actually have him 16th overall, so technically we're still higher. But OT2, and he had him before the Senior Bowl, though, as, what was it, OT?
Outside the top 200 players.
Outside his top 200 players, offensive tackle 19. And they put that on. They put that on tape, and I was like, someone had tweeted his ranking in my ranking where I had him at 18th overall player. And I was like, well, someone didn't get to the Houston tape this year. Because, that's absurd.
That was the only, and we talked about it with Steve. We talked about it with other people. It's like, hey, he just hasn't watched him yet. And that's fine. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. It's unfortunate that it got put out a little bit earlier than he was ready for.
Exactly.
And he even says it in the write-up. If you go to the article on ESPN, he says, I hadn't got a chance to watch a ton of the Josh Jones tape before the Senior Bowl, but after seeing him crush some dudes and going back to the tape, he's now my OT2 and also a top 20 player on my board.
Yeah. And he should be. But I saw this Thursday night Senior Bowl, practices are done. We roll into this.
How many White Claws in are you?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty
countless.
Toasty at that point. And we roll into this awful bar. It's just like they're playing beer pong there. It's like it was just a grimy Mobile, Alabama bar with like college kids there. And straight up, Todd McShay is there. Also had about as many drinks as I had. Go up, introduce myself, talk a little bit, and I'm like, hey, so I heard, so what'd you think of Josh Jones this week in practice?
You're a savage.
He's just like, are we really going to do this here? And I'm like, nah, man, you want to play some beer pong?
And you played beer pong with him?
No, he ended up like leaving like immediately afterwards. He wasn't making too much sense. He was pretty like, he had lost his coat and whatnot. He was in a bad way. But
man, dude, you approached him and he was in a bad situation. Yeah. And then you bring up the Josh Jones take, which he's probably getting hammered by others on Twitter or whatever it may be, and you had to do that. He's trying to have a good time. It's one of the last nights in the Senior Bowl, and you did that.
But that's the good, though.
That is the good.
That he came around full circle and he tried out to me.
I think that night he got back to his hotel, turned on the Josh Jones tape, and just locked in. He's like, oh my gosh, this guy might be the best player in this class. I don't know. There's not a ceiling for my friend Josh Jones and Mike Renner. All right, go to the next bit here for the good for Todd McShay. Jordan Love at number 32. And Jake Fromm at 34. So Love over Fromm on his board.
Well, no, it's not that Love's over Fromm. It's that I think they're like, he's putting them in the similar vein of, I think it's pretty high for Fromm. Not a lot of people are high on Fromm. And it's pretty low for Love. Like, a lot of people are falling all over themselves to put Love in their top 25, to say he has these traits to be as high-level QB. And 32 is much more of a hedging, where closer to where we would be on Jordan Love. And like seeing Jordan Love and Jake Fromm in a similar vein in terms of these guys are both flawed quarterback prospects at this point, but offers something to work with.
Despite being different, they're very similar in where they sit on the board.
Yeah. So I think that's where we have Fromm somewhere in the 40s now at this point. Maybe that's like right at 50. So it's got a little higher than we have both of these guys, but I still think he's lower on Love than the vast majority.
That's going to do it for the good for Todd McShay. Let's move to the bad. Some of the stuff that we disagreed with, at least slightly. I put in here Christian Fulton at number 44. No Igbenogany at number 19 over Fulton and Trevon. Guys like this, and we talked about Igbenogany a little bit. Great traits. The speed is stupid. We kind of wish he stayed a year to get better from an instinct standpoint and technically better. But I think he's a traits guy, too raw to be over Christian Fulton, Trevon Diggs, even like Bryce Hall, Jeff Gladney. Like I don't think he should be above some of these other guys that are already good playing cornerbacks. Noah Igbenogany is not good at playing cornerback yet. Yes, he has good traits, but these other guys are already good at that position.
Yeah, so I can see why you draft 19th. Like he looks like he should be 19th on a draft board in terms of cornerback position. He just hasn't played like that. But it's like, it's one of those things where, oh gosh, what was the example last year? I can't remember. It's going to be bad for me to just try to think about this off the hand. But it's one of those things where Christian Fulton and Trevon Diggs do not have bad physical tools. You're reaching for these elite physical tools and passing up on guys who have still good physical tools but have been very good at football already. And when you're splitting hairs between good athleticism and elite athleticism, and the good athletes are already good at football, go with the guys who are already good at football. Like there's like that incremental athleticism difference is not worth the on-field performance.
And that's where
difference.
I think when you compare it, whether you're comparing to Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, or other draft analysts, I think that's where PFF always differs the most. It's on guys that are being dropped because they're not that same tier of athleticism
elite
others.
Athletes.
But
they're still good athletes.
I think, and maybe this is cocky, but I think we have some of the best production figures at the college level than anyone else has access to. And for that reason, we lean heavily on these production grades and the advanced stats we do have access to. And that's a big reason why, like guys like Curtis Weaver, even like Trayvon Diggs are higher than Noah Benogany, etc.
Yeah, and I think, who was it last year? I think it was Rashawn Gary versus Chase Winovich last year was the conversation that I kept bringing that back to. I'm like, Winovich is a very good athlete. Like, Winovich has good tools to play on the edge in the NFL. He does not have elite tools to play on the edge in the NFL. Rashawn Gary has elite tools to play on the edge of the NFL. Rashawn Gary also had butt for production. Chase Winovich had very, very, very good production over the course of his career at Michigan. We're like, what are we doing here? We're splitting hairs over this like incremental difference over athleticism when one guy's a much better football player at this point.
Absolutely. All right. Do we want Terrell Lewis? We kind of touched on it with Mel Kiper, but again, he had him at number 23. And I think, again, traits. This guy looks the part. I think he's going to test well. The production just hasn't
he's going
been
to get drafted there. Yeah. He's going to go in the first round because teams need edge rushers, and there's not a lot of guys in this class that really have shown they can rush the passer. And the ones that have look like Curtis Weaver. It's Curtis Weaver. That's the one who's shown he can rush the passer.
All right. Juwan Jennings, all the way down at 224.
Dude.
This is aggressive.
And then Tyler Johnson at 163. And they're behind Kalijah Lipscomb. Of Vanderbilt. And Joe Reed from Virginia, who, I'll be honest, when he said Joe Reed from Virginia, when I looked at that, I'm like, I haven't watched a second of this guy. Go and watch him. They just pump him like underneath the screens. Like, he has 78 catches for 683 yards. He averaged 8.8 yards per catch this year. Of his 78 catches, less than half of them went for first downs. That's a crazy rate.
No, I know.
Over Tyler Johnson, who's like top 10 in yards per route each of the last 2 years.
Highest graded college football receiver this past year.
Juwan Jennings, most broken tackles in the country this year after the catch. Like, those are crazy rankings to me. I don't know.
Kalijah Lipscomb, I think in the offseason, I was excited after one screen. And when you try and see this guy separate down the football field, you just don't have it. He doesn't have it. Tyler Johnson and Juwan Jennings are both guys that can separate.
Much
like, they
bigger,
can separate much better. Yeah, like, I agree with you 100%.
These, like, Lipscomb, if you like him, it's because of his after-the-catch ability. Like, that would be the reason you like him, because he just, like, again, he does not separate down the football field. He does not have good speed.
But you know who's really good after the catch is Juwan Jennings.
I was going to say, you know who the best receiver after the catch was this year? It was Juwan Jennings. So, yes, that's kind of where we're at with those.
I think you said Lipscomb. I think you were trying to make a Lincecum.
I know, that was actually. That was bad.
Big time Timmy Jim. Big time from Frisco. All right. It's time now to get into the ugly, or the most disagreed with Todd McShay. I think we hammered him a little bit in the bad, but the ugly, it's similar takes. It's similar stuff to where you're putting guys with great athleticism or maybe better ceilings in your opinion over guys with really legit production. Here, the ugly, first one we have here is Trayvon Hill over Darrell Taylor and Khalid Kareem.
Dude, Trayvon Hill at 64 on his board.
Oh, man.
Like, he went to the Senior Bowl, didn't win a rep his first 2 days. He won a couple on the last day, but didn't win a rep in the one-on-ones his first 2 days.
I remember we were watching the first 2 days tape. It was like, I don't know if I've seen this guy win a rep yet. And then we go back and we have guys that are watching every play, watching every rep. Like, no, he hasn't. He has not won a rep.
He hadn't won a rep. So, Trayvon Hill, and he also checked in 234 pounds. You have an edge rusher, 233, excuse me. I gave him a little too much credit. 233 pounds, 6'3", 233. You have an edge rusher weighing 233 pounds at 64 on your draft board. What are you doing here? Like, he's not going to rush the passer at the NFL. There's no chance. He showed it at the Senior Bowl. He's not going to be able to rush the passer.
I think, again, this might go back to, we're hammering him a little bit here, but I think it might go back to the fact that, hey, you got to watch these guys. Like, you got to go back and watch these guys.
Like, you got to, like, follow them throughout. And there can be a red flag, like, hey, you weigh in at 233. Maybe he was listed higher than that. He was listed maybe 245. And he weighs in at 233, that's a pretty big red flag that you got to take advantage of.
I don't think he's going to test well. I don't think this guy's going to test like a premier athlete at 233.
And he also did not produce well either. Didn't produce at Virginia Tech.
The grades aren't great.
Before he left school at Virginia Tech and then went to Miami and didn't produce there either. So
I had to throw this one in there too. Justin Jefferson at number 26 overall. That by itself is like, okay, come on. This guy is not, in a great receiver class, this guy is not one of the top 30 players in this class. And then he has him over Laviska Shenault and T. Higgins. Over them. I think that's just ludicrous to me compared to those players.
And then I'll add, so he has Donovan Peoples-Jones as his wide receiver 12, but that's over Denzel Mims, Jalen Reagor, and KJ Hill.
Over Reagor?
Yeah. That's
another guy I think that you just probably hasn't gotten back to the tape yet with.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to be a dick. I feel like but I'm saying if you go back to the tape, you watch Denzel Mims at the Senior Bowl, you watch Jalen Reagor in 2018, 2019 over the course of that, you're going to see players that are better than Donovan Peoples-Jones. You're going to see players that are better than Justin Jefferson, in my opinion. Those guys, I think Mims, Reagor are all better than Justin Jefferson. Man, that's tough. That's tough.
That's just,
and we were talking, and to be
fair though, he has those are wide receivers 12 through 15 on his board, and they're all in his top 80 players. So he has he's a lot really high in this wide receiver class.
Well, that's good.
But, so he's kind of splitting hairs with, but dude, like ranking those guys, I don't know, just the way those were ranked, we got to disagree.
And we were talking to Daniel Jeremiah at the Senior Bowl, and he was saying, something that PFF does a really good job of with the tools we do give the NFL teams and certain media is that you're able to watch certain positions like wide receiver, cornerback, offensive line much more effectively with the tools we do provide. I mean, the PFF Ultimate is something we do give to the NFL teams and NCAA teams that allows you to filter down to clips. And you can watch a guy's targets. You can watch a guy's all of his targets 10+ yards down the football field. All of his targets against man coverage. All of his targets in zone. When down by 10 in the third quarter or in the third quarter.
Why would you want to watch one down by 10?
Not down by 10, whatever. But I'm just saying there's this filter ability to where watching tape is so much more efficient, so much more effective that you can get to a lot of guys.
Yeah.
You can get to the guys deep down draft boards, while I think maybe something like McShay or others need a little help there. Need that access.
They need the access.
Get
in touch with us, guys. All right. Next one. Jason Strowbridge at 40 is DT5, and Jordan Elliott at DT10. Or Jason Strowbridge, excuse me, not DT5, at number 45 overall on his draft board.
Really?
Jason Strowbridge, the guy who's a defensive tackle listed at 265 pounds.
He also got buried by Josh Jones.
Yeah, he was the guy who got
guard.
If you like Josh Jones that high, you can't like Strowbridge that high because Jones buried him. No, but and then Jordan Elliott, our DT3, Missouri guy.
Highest graded interior defensive lineman in college football.
Highest graded defense, DT10. Not even in his top 100.
Man.
Oh, that one's like.
That stung.
That one's crazy. He's 117 on his draft board. He's just he's better than that.
We're going to finish here on the McShay version of the good, the bad, and the ugly, and overall reaction to what he's got from a position ranking standpoint and overall. But you put all caps lock here. It's your guy. No Jonah Jackson.
And this one goes for both McShay and Mel Kiper. Jonah is not even ranked on on McShay's top 25.
And I know the reason why. I can tell you the reason why.
They haven't watched him.
Rutgers transfer.
Okay.
He's a Rutgers transfer. He wasn't getting built up in the 2018 season. 2019 has a very good year. But maybe did you not see him at the Senior Bowl though? I mean, this guy could stood out like a sore thumb in a very good way. And then he was winning every rep. Had a weird build, but was making work with it. Great balance. I mean, Jonah Jackson, but blew up the Senior Bowl.
Not even ranked on either McShay or Kiper's boards.
Flying under the radar. You know what I hate though? I hope they don't know because they have better access than we do to the players and to the coaches. You got to hope there's not a red flag somewhere.
That we've missed?
Yeah, that would be unfortunate.
No.
Series of unfortunate events.
I don't think there is.
That would be unfortunate. That's going to do it for the Thursday edition.
Are there a lot of O-lines with red flags though? That doesn't happen a lot.
I mean, what about Larry Tunsil?
Larry Tunsil, that came up pretty quickly.
Was that even a red flag,
and went away pretty quickly.
I don't know if that was
also,
even a red flag.
Right?
You can't say you haven't been through your green flag. Gas mask is not high on my red flag. It's when you get into the off-field violence and stuff is where you kind of start to come up.
O-line keeps themselves. They're good.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for the Thursday edition of 2-for-1 Drafts. A little bit of an update. We're going to pivot to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. So if you do tune in live on YouTube, we're going to be live on YouTube Monday, Wednesday, Friday moving forward. Remember, you can find the full podcast on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That's going to do it. Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.